Hello, class. I want to welcome everyone to week number 2. Here we are. Hopefully, you've gotten to know me a little bit and see some of my, intricate little things when it comes to grading posts and papers and such items like that. And I've gotten to know a few of you. I want to thank those that attended the class this past week. I think we had a great class. Thank you for your participation. So let's get into it. I'm not going to make this video too long, but I just want to talk about some of the it's actually the objective for this week, and that is to analyze and summarize, describe significant laws, legislation, permit requirements that are related to commercial sale, repair, trade, and import of firearms. Pretty much is what we're going to be talking about. The other thing we're going to talk about is some political ideologies when it comes to the Second Amendment, especially when we get into the discussion board. We're going to have some hot button topics that we're going to ask you to discuss, and especially when it comes to the tragedies of mass shootings, especially right now. I know here in Texas over the last couple of years, we've had quite a few shootings, in El Paso, Odessa, and down in Sutherland Springs. And then you've got, especially this time of year when we're going to be amping up for elections. I know just last November we heard one Democratic hopeful, threaten the U.S. People that he was going to take our AR-15s and AK-47s. So there, in these times and events, people can get caught up in the moment and become very emotional, regardless of which side of the political spectrum we find ourselves at. When managing a shooting sports business, it's very, very important for us to pay attention to what's going on in, around us in the world, because what happens is, we've learned from the past, it has an effect on us. And so we need to be careful. I know that during the discussion, you're going to be asked, how are you going to manage a firearms business during a time as I've described, whether it be election time or a mass shooting. And if you have customers that come in, in a panic buy, or those people that are not customers that just want to argue with retailers and range owners and stuff like that and challenge you, how are you going to react to those people? So we'll discuss that a little bit. The other thing I want you to do this week is put on your business owner hat. Put yourself in that situation where you're owning your shooting sports business that you're either have created, or that you're creating just for this course. When you're doing that, I want you to be able to look at those things that are important, especially when it comes to understanding some important forms later on, the 4473 form, because that's the questionnaire that your customers have to fill out in order to purchase guns. So you're going to need to understand the federal law when it comes, applicable to firearms transactions. You're also, for the assignment 1, you're going to need to understand the NFA, or the National Firearms Act, and what a prohibited person is. And it pretty much, if you look at the whole first or the second section of the 4473, it'll give you the breakdown of exactly prohibited persons if they start answering no to certain questions or yes to those questions. That gives you a good outline. So there's some good resources that we provide for you this week on understanding that. So put that business owner hat on and think of it from that perspective. And then as you get into assignment number two, um, you're going to be reading about some of the recommended resources, of course, but what are some of the national requirements in order for you to get your federal firearms license? Age, all that stuff. I'm not going to get into it, but because you're going to have to be able to answer those questions. So, what do you have to do to get your FFL? And then, are there any additional requirements by your state to get federal firearms license or their state licenses? We're blessed here in Texas. I mean, the only thing that I remember having to get when I was an independent FFL was the federal requirements, and then what was it? It was the state sales permit, and that was pretty much it. As long as we met all the requirements of the ATF and owning a federal firearms or having a federal firearms license and that state sales permit, we were good to go. And each state is different. And also, please, in that second assignment, talk about your concealed carry requirements. If your state is a constitutional carry, or if your state is a will issue state or a may issue state. If you have any questions of what I'm talking about, please shoot out a question. An email to me, and I can help you understand those. But it's a good opportunity in that assignment too to go ahead and talk about that. So just remember, just a couple of reminders out there for you all. Remember, your discussion board and your assignments have to have a minimum of 250 words. You don't have to worry about putting, any references in a works cited in the discussion board, but please remember, it's the industry standard. The industry standard when we start talking about these assignments and preparing for your portfolio, that you put your references in a works cited in that. Please do that, and if you need some help, reach out to me, send me an email, and I'll respond to help you out. And also remember that the weekly classes that we have are not mandatory. You'll see that link in this instructor guidance for you to go ahead and participate in that if you have the time to do so. And until next week, you guys have a great time. Be safe, and we'll see you next week.